Let me go ahead and get that. Okay. Thanks, Kim, for sharing that. Dr. Revis just said that there was a lot of storms in her area as well. So let me, people are coming on in, but we're going to go ahead and get started. Dr. Revis, are you still there? She has some, well, we'll come back. She has some bad weather in her place, so she may be out right now. But anyway, welcome to week 3. We're going to go ahead and get started, and others I hopefully will join us very shortly. But just want to begin by just talking to you a little bit about some class norms. And I sent the email out from Dr. Revis and me yesterday, just basically preparing you for this. And got thinking about it after last week's class. By all means, we want to answer all questions that need to be answered while you're in class. But I'm going to ask you to hold, for the most part, hold your questions, write them down if you have to write it down, hold them until after Dr. Revis and I have completed talking about something completely. And then we will have a time for you to ask the questions and to talk about anything that may not be clear to you. And the reason being, all of you are at different levels. Some of the questions apply, some of them don't, and there's no reason for us to have to repeat the same thing over and over and over again for someone that doesn't need to hear it. So out of respect to everybody, and for those that do not need to hear it, we're going to hold that until the end of class. And if you don't need to stay when we get to that point, then by all means, you can check out and go on and do whatever you need to do for the evening. So we will answer all questions, but let's just, for the most part, try to hold them to the very end. If it's a dire emergency, then put it in the chat. Either Dr. Revis or I will check it, and we'll try our best to get to it. But again, for the most part, let's hold it until the very end. Dr. Revis, have you gotten back yet? She's still out. They've got bad storms where she is, so we'll move on. At this point, all of you will have heard from Dr. Revis and me about the work you've done for AAPSL Task 1. It's pretty much all over the place. I have some that knocked it out of the ballpark, and there weren't even any recommendations to make because the work was already at that level, pending just minor adjustments if they needed to make it before a final submission. Some were just a little bit to do, some were in the middle, some needed a lot to do. That's why you received the email from us yesterday evening. And if you scored below 90% proficient, that doesn't mean you're a bad student. It just means that we need to make sure at the end of this class that you are clear with whatever it is that you've got to do to get task 1 cleaned up and ready for resubmission as soon as possible this week, and no later by Sunday, because we'll be through with task 1 after Sunday, and you don't need to get behind on this. The peer reviews that have come in, and I've only seen about half of my class at this point. Dr. Revis said she had seen about half of hers, but they were not due until by 7 o'clock today. So when I get off class tonight, I will go back in and I will check the rest of the peer reviews that have come in before I go to bed tonight. The ones that I have graded, every single one of them were exemplary. I could not have asked for better work from you. Dr. Revis said that for the most part, hers were the very same way. A lot of thought, a lot of effort, a lot of time went into that. Now, with that being said, I hope that you understand the rhyme and reason behind the peer review process. First of all, it's to help a peer possibly improving the work that they're doing. But guess who it helps more than anybody else? It helps yourself. This caused you to look at every little thing, and it made you think about your own work. So not only are you helping somebody else, more than that, you are helping yourself with this peer review process. Again, I could not have been more pleased with the work that came from the peer review process. And some of you did not do well on the AAPSL Task 1 itself, but you did an exemplary job on the peer review process. You know what that told me? That you could have done it on the Task 1 of the AAPSL. Because if you can talk about it and you can recognize the things that you recognized in the peer review process, then you could have done it with your own work. So I'm telling you now, go back and take advantage of this opportunity and self-review just like you peer review before the work is submitted to Dr. Revis and me. I'm going to come out of this in a minute. I'm going to go into Blackboard for just a minute and show you a couple of things, and then where our focus is going to be mainly on task 2 and task 3, and then at the end we'll have question and answer, and then those that don't need to stay, you can check out. Those that we need to talk to, we're going to ask you to stay for a few minutes after we get through tonight. So with that in mind, I'm going to minimize this, and I want to bring up, let me bring this up. Okay, this is the template and material section. I cannot stress enough how vitally important this section is for you. Do not deviate from the template. AAPSL helpful hints guide the template. Now the sample, I did go back and this was somebody else's sample. There are some errors in that sample. It's just a guide to go by, but there are some errors in that. So don't look at that as being a 100% accomplished document. It's got a lot of good stuff in it, but even today I went back and I realized that there are some things in there that need to be fixed, and I'll fix it, but that's another day that I'll look at that. But and then again, this right here, it simplifies everything and tells you step by step what task 1 submission should have been. So if you are one of those that did not get permission to complete the peer review process and move on, and you've got to resubmit to Dr. Revis and me, then I am telling you, go back and take advantage of what we've got in there. The resources down here are, you know, they're just lots of good resources here. So make sure that you take advantage of that. Just a reminder, the peer reviews again, remember that you're going to submit your peer reviews. You're going to put them back in the you're going to put them back in there, discussion board for your peers to be able to see the work that you've done with them. Now, guess what? Everybody pretty much. Now, some of you may be more astute than somebody else in an area, but all of you are pretty much at the same place. All of you have a master's degree. All of you are in this for the same reasons. what I tell you to do and what Dr. Revis tells you to do, you need to count that as the gospel. Do not deviate from that. However, let's just say, and I'm going to pick on Kristen and I'm going to pick on William for just a moment because they're right in front of me. Let's just say that Kristen reviews William's paper and she gives him his feedback, and then William looks at it and he says, well, I don't, I appreciate what Kristen did, but I might not fully agree with something that she said. That's okay. That's okay. William can choose to take Kristen's advice on that, and he can say, I can use that, or he can say, I'm not going to use that. That's left up to you. If I tell you to change something, then unless you call me and say, Dr. Stebbins, I don't understand why you're asking me to do that, or Dr. Revis, I don't understand, then you need to do it. But if it's up here and you just don't quite agree with that, then that's your discretion. You're not held hostage to that. So just please be just reminded of that. However, I will tell you, Dr. Revis and I are not going to do it as detailed as you are, and we're not supposed to. That is not what we're supposed to do. Now, we may have to go back and look at it again. Your peer review actually should be more comprehensive than what I do or what Dr. Revis does when we're reviewing your work. Now, you will get sometimes, now like with my group, Dr. Revis does not always do this, and she may do it sometimes as well. I attached a Word document with every one of you that needed to do so. And what I did as I was reading it, I highlighted certain things. That highlighted area meant there's something wrong there. You need to go back and look at that. Or there's something that it's not quite clear to me. It could be a sentence that was not a complete sentence or a complete thought, or, some grammar usage. But if you see it highlighted, that means that you need to go back and you need to pay attention to it. And with that, I would come back and I would say some other things. Now, I gave a little more than you'll get later on. Probably with your next review, you may get some of the same, but eventually I will start weaning you from that, because I don't want you to get used to the fact, well, I'm just going to do it this way, and Dr. Stebbins or Dr. Revis, they're going to highlight it and that's going to clear me up. It should get to the point that by the time you get, well, even with your next task that you turn in, it should be much better than what you just turned in. Now, I'm going to preach a little bit. I'm on my soapbox. Dr. Revis and Dr. Hamilton did an amazing job with AP 7th edition last week. I'm going to tell you, for some, it was like you had never heard of it. It was like a foreign language, and that should not have been. There were things that we highlighted or we told you that needed to be done. Absolutely should not have been the case. If you had paid attention and you had gone back and you had reviewed, they gave you, in the snapshot, they gave you exactly the areas that you need to concentrate on with most of the work that you're going to be doing. So I'm going to ask you again, take it seriously. You must learn the APA 7th edition as it applies to the work that you've got to do for us. Dr. Revis, you back yet? She's not back yet, so she'll join us in a little bit. Maybe if anybody sees Dr. Revis, say, Dr. Stebbins, she's here. But with that, we're gonna move on, and we're gonna talk about. This is what I wanted to show you in Blackboard. Now, this is where you put AAPSL Task 1 for Dr. Revis and for me to review this week. Now, when we tell you, and this is where you put your peer review, your peers to see it. Whenever we tell you that you're cleared with task 1 and it's ready for a final grade, this is where you go, the AAPSL assignment Dropbox. This is where you're going to put it whenever at the end of this week, when it's cleared and we tell you you're good to go. And if you do what we tell you to do, guess what your grade should be in that AAPSL 1 final for evaluation? It should be 100. There should be no reason for you not to get 100 if you do what we ask you to do. So that's where that goes. And just another reminder, let me see. This stuff goes together after a while, especially when you get my age and you have to wear trifocals. Okay, this is where the 2 peer reviews. Now, remember, you're putting, this is the completed peer reviews. This is where they go for Dr. Revis and me to give you your grade, okay? And you're going to put peer review 1 in there, and then you're going to put peer review 2 in there for AAPSL task 1. Just a reminder, not picking on anybody, but just a reminder, because I know mistakes can be made, but please help us out. Remember, don't go past this area right here at this point, because that's the AAPSL down there. And if you go down there, you're going to put it in the wrong place, and I've got to go in and take it out, and I've got to tell you to go back in and resubmit again. So please make sure that you work up here in the AAPSL and be aware of that when you're there. Okay, I'm going to get off that soapbox now. Everybody understand where you're supposed to put your work at this point? Everything good?
I do understand, but I have a question. I think I understand. For this week, do we need to put the tasks, the completed peer review in the Dropbox for this week as well, for the one that we did for Sunday?
Yeah, that's what goes in this week. And then that task 1 goes in this week. Task 2 will go in next week.
Okay, because for this task, I think I just did the peer review in Blackboard, so I think I need to go back and submit that into the completed peer review Dropbox. That's
right. You got to do those same 2 in the Dropbox for Dr. Revis and me to give you a grade.
Okay. Is that going to be considered late because it is at past 7 o'clock?
No. Go ahead and do it. We'll give you some leniency the first time.
And you just want those forms submitted there? Is that what it is? The 2 forms that I completed?
Yeah, the same thing that you gave to your peer is the same thing you give to us.
All right. Thank you for that clarification.
You are welcome. Thank you for asking that question. Okay. Let me minimize that, and then let me come to, let me see. Let me go to the weekly schedule real fast and just remind you, someone asked the question earlier, remember the readings are on your own. We will refer to them occasionally, but they're pretty much, they're on your own. Remember, everything in red is the AAPSL, and this is also on your agenda for today. Just remember that by the end of this week, this is what is due. AAPSL Task 1 revisions are due for a final grade, but you have to get permission before it's a final grade from us. And then your AAPSL Task 1 peer reviews should already be in the Dropbox, but if they're not, then you need to put them there. AAPSL Task 2 draft that I'm going to go over tonight will be put in the discussion board by Sunday night, and this is for peer and instructor review. So that is what is due this week. Now, with that in mind, I'm not going to go into it, but I'm telling you what's due week 3. You yourself should always look ahead at the next week and get an idea of what's coming up. Okay? Now, what you're finding now effect this week until we get through with the AAPSL, you will always have, by that Sunday night, you will always have a task that is due for a final grade, and you will always have a task that is due for review at the same time. Okay? You will be cleaning up something and putting it in there for your final grade, and you will be submitting something for our review, and this will be throughout the AAPSL process. There will be a little break after the AAPSL process where you won't have to do that. Then we will start all back over with the APTEL about mid-semester when we get to that. Any questions about this?
Dr. Stedman, I have a question.
Oh, Dr. Stedman, I think Dr. Revis is on.
Hey, Dr. Revis.
I finally got back on.
Okay,
I'm
that's
sorry.
okay. That's okay. Well, Dr. Revis, I've talked to him about, we've talked about, about class norms, about pretty much trying to hold questions until the end of class. And I've told them those that about, that made less than 90%, we needed to meet with them briefly after class. I've talked with them about the peer review process because you and I had talked, and we said that we had looked at about half of ours and we were pretty pleased with those. I talked to them about AAPSL Task 1, and that we had some that were very good, some that were almost good, some that were mediocre, and some that still needed help. What else would you like to say before we move on?
Well, I think a few of you may have had a little trouble deciding where to upload your peer reviews. Could we review that very quickly,
just
Dr.
did.
Stedman?
Okay,
great.
I just got that through, so I think they understand now what to do. And I told them that anybody that had not submitted, they would not be counted off for that. That that we understand that that they're still trying to figure that out right now. So if it comes in after class tonight, we'll be okay with that. So as long as you get it into us tonight. Okay.
Okay, Dr. Stedman, one quick question. We're putting the peer reviews in the assignment Dropbox, correct?
In the peer review assignment Dropbox, yes.
Okay.
And
Okay.
but you've sent them to your peers to see them already too, right?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Then
Thank you,
I put it
Robin.
in the wrong spot.
Okay, good. We can fix that though.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So any questions about what is due this week?
Any thing that we submitted in the Dropbox that we didn't mean to put in there, is there a way to pull that back?
Send us an email and tell us what it is, and we will figure that out. Dr. Revis and I will figure that out. Okay.
Dr. Stedman,
Yes.
if we had to make reviews to our AAPSL Task 1, just to understand, we're putting that in the AAPSL Task Review before, and then we have to wait for permission to put it in the Dropbox. The
Right.
final.
You got
Okay.
you got to get permission, but you put it right back where you put it to start with. You go back and send it back to us, and we will review it again. But your peers are not reviewing it this time. Only Dr. Revis or I will be reviewing it this time. Thanks,
Perfect, thank
Nini.
you.
I have a question. So when we put it back in there, do we need to label it? So you'll know, do we need to label it revised or?
Yes, you can do that. Yes. Okay, thank you for that.
And
Dr.
I have
Revis,
a question. Is it not, we're not creating a new thread just because I did it a couple of times and I thought I was supposed to create a new thread. I'm supposed to go back in and put it in.
you create a new thread, but you go back to the same place. Yes. Go back to that same. Yeah, for peer and instructor review, you go back to that same spot.
Okay.
Okay. Dr. Revis, I am going to pull up okay, I'm going to pull this up. This is the AAPSL helpful hints. Revis, I want us to go ahead and get started back on task 2. Let me find where we are there. Okay, okay, here we are. Make sure task 2, prompt 1. Okay, Dr. Revis, would you like to begin?
Okay, so guys, in task 1, of course, that was your organizational meeting. In task 2 is your data dive. And that's where you roll up your sleeves and you dig and dive into your data. So it's a lot of writing, and it's a lot of technical writing, if you will. And I call it technical writing because typically we don't talk about, typically we don't write when we're talking about reporting percentages, the percent proficient, the percent of students below grade level, or the percent of our whole student population scoring below the state or our district. So it's a lot of technical writing, I think. So the first thing you have to do is you have to create a section heading that says data collection strategies. And there you will talk with your PLC, and together you will decide what data strategies, collection strategies that you are going to look at. What data are you going to collect? Who's going to collect it? And here's an example. This example just talks about the process that this individual went through. And not only did they look at the school report card data for school performance, but they also looked at their EVOS, or education value added assessment data, for growth. We would like for you to do both if you're working in a grade level where they have both. Okay, so they talk about what data that they collected or looked at and pulled. And then let's move on down. And they are looking at 6th, 7th, and 8th grade levels, I think, in this particular example.
This is an excellent example, though.
It is. And you see how she's talking about different members. DK and I work together to do this. SL has been unable to meet, but so on and so forth. You talk about how, make sure it shows that it's a collaborative effort in the data analysis.
And it needs to show your leadership.
Exactly. Your next heading is criteria and process for identifying the most pressing need. So once you've determined the strategies that you're going to use to collect your data sets, the next thing you're going to talk about in your PLC is, well, what criteria are we going to use to identify our most pressing need? It may be that you're going to look at areas. Let's say we're looking at 6th grade math. That's your PLC. Let's say that you may be wanting to look at growth and really dive into that growth data, and that you're going to look at anything that doesn't meet that expected growth. Could be that, or it could be any, you're going to look at areas that of your curriculum strands where your students did not meet the state performance rate, whatever. And so it just kind of talks about what you're going to do and how you're going, what is the criteria? What is my measurement stick that we're going to use in identifying our most pressing need? Remember, this is collaborative data analysis. And so then that's exactly what the next heading is about.
And look what they did, Dr. Revis, look what they did, though. They said first step is, the second step is, the third step is, finally. So, I mean, there's no questions there. You have told us, exactly this is what they're doing or what they've done.
Exactly. And then again, underscore that word collaborative. You have to show that you are facilitating that team into disaggregating your data by looking at all groups of students, tearing it apart and delving down even into your subgroups and looking at growth as well. And again, she reiterates that they analyze the data from the school report card. And I'm thinking she's talking there about performance and EVOS growth. And so they talk about some of the issues that they brought up, some of the trends that different members of the PLC may have noted during that data analysis. Can you scroll on down, Dr. Steve?
Is that where you want to go? Okay, she's frozen up again. Okay, again, until she gets unfrozen. You can see that with the collaborative data analysis, they've talked about you look at everything that you can look at. You don't leave any stone unturned, because you know this at your own schools. When you do a data dive or data dig, you go deep into it and you look at everything. And then once you look at everything, then you can begin eliminating what you don't need and then pulling together what you do need. But you don't say that anything is not needed at this point, because you've put the whole puzzle out there on the table to look at. And then finally, once you do that, once your heading is most pressing need. Now, in your minds, you may say, I already know what the most pressing need is at my school. You may think you do. Your principal may think he or she knows. They may have said this, but guess what? We have found more times than not, once this whole process is done, the aha moment came there, and the team decides, they said, wow, I want you to look, this is actually the area that serves as our most pressing need at this moment. Now, once step 1, 2, and 3 have been done, completed, you're going to determine, based on your analysis of this, you and the team are going to say, based on what we see, based on the disaggregation of all of this data on the table, this is what the most pressing need is at our school at this point, or the area that you're looking at. It can be a subgroup that you're looking at, but you're going to determine what that most pressing need is, and you're going to tell why it's the most pressing need. That is what number 4 is. And then this is what our PLC determined during the second meeting, that the most pressing need was 8th grade mathematics, as mentioned earlier. So they're saying that the whole 8th grade is where the biggest need is, and that is actually what is holding the school back from progressing on the state report card when the EOGs are given. So what they're going to do, they're going to focus on 8th grade math. That is, you see what your most pressing need is going to guide you toward what your PLC should be. Now, you say, well, Dr. Stebbins, my principal said, and guess who runs the school? Your principal. If your principal does not want you to work on 8th grade math, guess what you've got to work on? As long as it's an academic area, you've got to work on what your principal wants you to work on, and that'll be okay. However, we want you to know the process, and we want you to be able to talk to them intelligently and say, this is what the most pressing need is, and this is how we got there. You may be able to change their minds. You may be able to convince them. We want you to be able to show them anyway, and then you have to do pretty much what they want you to do. However, it must be an academic area. It must be a tested area. It cannot be discipline. It cannot be attendance. It must be a tested area. Everybody got that? Okay. And then after that, it's going to be, there's a second part to this, prompt 2. Prompt 2 requires all narrative work. I mean, prompt 1 requires all narrative work. All you've done is you've written up in prompt 1, and we've given you the headings that you're to write under. Prompt 2 is going to require graphic representation. Now, what you're doing, there'll be some narrative down there too, because if you have a picture, you got to have something to tell what that picture is. So what you're basically telling is the same story, but you're doing it in 2 different ways. In task 1, you're writing it. In task 2, you're going to show it. You're going to graphically represent the work done narratively in prompt 1 in the forms of charts, tables, graphs, etc. These visuals are to be used to illustrate and support the data analysis and conclusion. Now, you can create your graphs. You can use graphs that are already available based on whatever disaggregated data that you use, but they must be embedded in there, and you must identify them as figures, and we must be able to know, what they are and how they relate to your narrative work in task 1. Please remember that you identify your graphic work as figures according to APA. Please remember that all graphics should include a narrative explanation of what is being presented. You always have your references, APA style, and you always include your appendices at the end. And at this point, at a minimum, in this appendices, you should have an agenda of the meeting that you're having with your PLC. At a minimum, that should be in there. Now, once tasks 2, prompts 1 and 2 are complete. Now, you probably won't have time to do all of this week, but this must be done before it is submitted for a final grade. You are to schedule a meeting with your principal or your leadership team, and you are to present the findings to them. You have to talk to them about, this is what the team has found. Now, you can do it with your PLC team, or you can do it by yourself. Now, if your administration is on your team, they're part of it anyway, but you still must show evidence, that it has been presented, even if they're on the team, and that becomes a disclaimer, and you indicate in your disclaimer that your principal is a part of the PLC team, and that they are aware of everything that you're doing as a group. I would highly recommend that you can record it if you want to presenting, but at a minimum, you have an agenda of your meeting. You may have a PowerPoint presentation that you put in there. You would put the frames from your PowerPoint in there and have a picture of you presenting. Those are all great artifacts that you can use now, and you'll be able to use later as well. Again, you've got to meet with your team this week. You've got to begin digging into all of this, because you've got until Friday to meet with them, because they won't be there after Friday unless you meet with them virtually sometime. Again, you will not have time to present it to the principal. When you submit it on Sunday evening, you can actually tell Dr. Revis and me that I have a meeting scheduled with my administration or my administrative team on such and such a date. You can go ahead and tell us that. And then when it's turned in finally, that information will be in there for Dr. Revis and me to see. So again, let's go back up here again. Task 2. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where you are beginning to look at, you've got to identify what is the most pressing need at your school. And this is what you're going to do again. You're with your team. You're going to meet with your team, and you're going to decide what are your data collection strategies, and you're going to write about it. Next, you're going to, what is the criteria and the process for identifying the most pressing need? What's your plan? You know, how are you and the team going to make that decision? It's not just Sandra saying that, it's Sandra leading her team to say that, what that's going to be. Then again, the collaborative, that once you decide what that process is going to be, you write it up, then you do it. That's what number 3 is. You do it. You analyze the data collaboratively and you talk about that. You talk about the good, bad, and ugly, everything. You have dialogue about it narratively. And then finally, after you've done all that, you and the team say, you know, this is our conclusion. And that is when the most pressing need comes in there. You tell what the most pressing need is, and you tell why it's the most pressing need. And then after you've done all that, you've written about it, now you're going to show us in charts, graphs, tables, etc. You're going to show us, this is the proof. We did all this because this is, you're going to show us why you came to that conclusion up there. Now, you can find this in your EVOS data. You can find it in your report card. There's lots of places that you can find it. You can look at benchmark data. You know, there's a lot of places that you can go and you can find stuff that has already been done that you'll be able to use that will represent the narrative work that you've talked about up there. Okay. Dr. Revis, you back yet?
I am back. I don't know how long I will stay, but I am
That's
back
okay.
right now.
Well, I've gone through task 1 and task 2, Dr. Revis. I'm going to let you put your comments there before we open it up for them to ask questions.
Well, I just want to reiterate, not only are you doing a lot and making a lot of decisions collaboratively with your PLC this week, but there is a lot of narrative writing that has to go with it. So just be sure you pace yourself and, you know, and try to get things done and make sure you get it all together as best you can. And again, if you're missing the meeting with your administrator where you're going to present your information from task 1 and 2, then, you know, that's okay. That's okay.
As long as it's there when you turn it in for your final grade. That's for Dr. Revis and me anyway. And you just let us know. Dr. Revis, I overplanned again. I am not going to take them into task 3 because it'll be too much. We'll take care of that next week. What questions would anybody have based on what your requirements are for task 2 at this time? Now, remember we said that again, you're cleaning up task 1 and you're working on task 2 at the same time. Next week, you'll be cleaning up task 2 and doing task 3 at the same time. And then the next week, you'll be cleaning up task 3 and doing task 4 at the same time. And then you'll be cleaning up task 4 and doing task 5 at the same time. So that's how it's going to operate. Jessica?
Okay, so as far as the videos, is there 2 videos? Because I'm looking at the rubric and it says a video of us leading the PLC meeting to find the data, and then a video of us presenting it to our principal.
Those are just highly recommended. You know, you're always striving for accomplished work.
Okay.
Those are things that evaluators look at when they are determining accomplished work. A lot of times you can't always, it's not always possible to do the videos and things, but if you've got a picture of you presenting, occasionally there needs to be one, but you're going to hear that a lot of times. Now, there are going to be times that it is a requirement. It's not a requirement at this time. It's highly recommended. Okay. Sandy?
Hi. Quick question. we're in the process of our data window opening. I was just wondering, will I have time? Because I wanted to look at M-class data and we got BLG next week, but is that time frame? I want to see if my time frame going to work out, if I'll have
Okay.
time enough.
But what you have to do, Sandy, is work with the most recent data that you have available.
Okay.
Okay. And now there may come a time that you can take the data that is coming and you can use it in the future and you can apply it to some things in the future. But at this point, all you can work with is what the most recent data that is available at your school. And I promise you this, the trend is not going to be much differently at this point than what you will get from, it's going to be very similar to probably what you're going to be getting when it comes around again. Very close.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, if I switch my group, would that be bad? I'm working with third grade, but I can use my ELG data, but those are now fourth graders.
Okay, you're at a place now that you can do pretty much whatever you need to do.
Okay.
Okay, Tamia?
I think you just answered it somewhat with the PLC group that I wanted to work with, well, that I'm working with. They're so I'm the only actual teacher on it, but trying to meet like this week, knowing that our meeting calendar was set prior to school starting, makes it a little difficult for us all to get together. So I'm debating whether I need to switch to work with my kindergarten team.
Okay, but
We
you
don't-
and remember, if there are people that you can do a Zoom meeting with them if you need to.
Okay, I probably could. I'll just have to reach out and see. It's just that with the Sunday deadline and then today's Tuesday, it
Right.
makes it a little tricky.
Right, right. I understand, but just and again, if you can get the majority of them, you may not have all of them, and that's okay too. Okay.
Okay, and I have one more question.
Okay.
And I know you said you weren't going into task 3, and I could probably look this up on my own, in all honesty. Will we have a PLC meeting also? I like to plan ahead. It just makes
Yes,
me feel less anxious.
You'll have a PLC meeting for task 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Okay, that'll let me plan better. All right, thank
Okay,
you.
Yes. Task 5 is the only one you won't need a PLC meeting for.
Okay.
Yes, I have a question. It's more so about the, we have to turn in the reviews. I went into my email and I see that I had one person that I was assigned to review, and I'm not sure if I did. Can I go in and sign, and review, peer review that person that I was assigned to and submit it tonight?
Yes, you'll be okay, Tori.
It'll make me have 3, but I
That's
was.
okay. That's okay. You'll be fine.
Okay.
Thank you, Tori. Sandra?
Yes, my question was in terms of the length of our writing, because sometimes I know when I wrote my story, I got carried away in my own story, like about my school. So what's too long? Especially for task 2.
And I hear you, Sandra. Now again, I can remember my students doing the same thing when I was a teacher. So, we're not much different as adults, are we? But I'm not going to tell you what's too long when you know that you have covered the subject. Some people write more comprehensively than others. Some can write more succinctly and get the same message across. I want you to feel comfortable with what you've done, and if it's when you're not doing a thesis or a dissertation, but you want it to be enough that you have fully covered what you need to cover and you're comfortable with it. So Michelle, I'll get with you in just a second. Michelle may be one that can say it in 2 paragraphs. You may require 4 paragraphs. Okay, does that make sense?
And I think a good gauge for you is to look at the examples that we've got up there.
Right.
That's about where most people hit it in the example. Okay.
But I want you to feel comfortable with what you submit, Sandra. And and I think you'll be okay. I truly believe that.
Thank you.
Okay, Michelle.
Okay, I'm not sure that I really need to ask my question anymore.
That's okay.
I know you said some acronyms that I don't really know because again, I'm at a private school. But I need to measure data that's academic, no matter where I get my source from.
Right. And Michelle, what you'll have to do now, if you're in a private school, if you're in a charter school, now most charter schools still use basically the same thing that the state uses. But what you need to do is whatever you use to measure student achievement at your school, that's what you use. And you just explain that in your narrative work.
Okay. And the fact that we are a small school with one grade level or one class per grade level, and transient. I mean, we're not going to have data from year. I mean, that makes sense.
It does.
I'm sure this has happened with other students that have been in this program.
Yes. Michelle, you and I have talked. You're going to be okay. I think that you'll have. And if you run into a problem and you're not sure, just call me.
Okay.
Okay, and we'll talk about it.
Thank you.
Okay, but I know your situation, so I think you'll be okay though. Okay, other questions at this point about task 2?
Okay, and for task 2, this is my last question.
That's okay.
Okay, for us to do just our grade level for data.
And
compare it with the state. Like if we don't want to do, like if I don't want to go into the whole school data as far as every grade.
But what you can focus on, you can focus on, and give me a grade. What grade level are you talking about, Kim?
I was gonna do yes, I was gonna do second grade level.
Okay, you can do second grade level. And what would be, and you could look at, now you've got to look at the test data first, but then when you look at you could say, okay, looking at second grade, after you do the data dive, what is the weakest area in second grade? And then that becomes your focused PLC.
Yeah, that came up.
It may be second grade literacy.
Yes, it is.
Grade math.
Okay. Yeah, we came into we dived in a little bit. I know because when I had the PLC on Friday, I kind of had tried to keep and cover some grounds. I'm like the other ones. I'm trying to cover grounds because I know some have meetings on Fridays and different things. So I'm just trying to find a time, but it's easier for me to do grade level because we have a administrator for each grade level. There's one for that grade level is on my team, on my PLC team. So it just makes it easier for me.
Okay, well, that's good. And that's working smart. You've got to work with what's going to work best for you to be able to be successful in this program.
Okay.
That sounds good. Kim?
I was curious about the recommended length of the video. If I am able to record the video with the administration team going over the data. Is there a recommended length for the video? Do you want like the entire meeting or just capture one part of the meeting?
I would, if you're going to video it, I would love to see the whole meeting if you're okay with that. And, if your administration, and that will serve as a great artifact for you later on too, with some other things that you're able to do. Some are comfortable with it, some are not as comfortable with it. So, kind of gauge it and see where they are with it,
Because it's not made available to anyone else but you and Dr. Revis, right?
That's it. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And the second question, going back to the most pressing need, it can be as general as we've decided our most pressing need is third grade math.
Third grade math, yes.
It can be as general as that based on growth.
It can be. Now, most people, third grade math, most people if they do that, they look at what areas are, they'll look at the subcomponents of third grade math, and they'll say, you know, it could be fractions. I'm just using that as an example. And when they looked at the test data and they saw there was a weakness in fractions, that, you know, if we improved this much in fractions this year, it probably would take us to the next level. So I'm just using that as an example. You can be more specific than just math if you decide in your data dig that's what it is.
And
Okay, thank you.
I would just add to that, I think, this is just my opinion, that task 3, which we're not talking about yet, I know,
Right.
but I think task 3 will be easier for you if you can get specific.
I do
Okay.
too, Dr. Revis, I do. It just causes you that when you're more general like that, Kim, it causes you to have to be, even like Dr. Revis says, more comprehensive with some of the work that you've got to do later on. When you're specific, you know exactly what you're going for.
Today in the meeting, we talked about several different things. And so I don't know, can I kind of start general and then get more specific in task 3, 4, and 5?
Yes, and let your team help you get more specific.
Okay.
Okay. Lean on them, even your administration. Talk with them and just say, you know, this is where we are. You know, ask them to help you decide what they would want it to be more specific in. Okay. Okay, Sandra.
Yes, my last question. We're not peer reviewing anything in task 2.
Yes, you
Correct.
are. You will peer review tasks 1, 2, 3, and 4.
With our same groups.
With your same groups, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Your same Zoom teams, yes, ma'am.
Okay, and we will turn it into those sections that you pointed out on the dashboard.
And then for task 2, it will be due next Tuesday by 7 o'clock.
Okay, but Sunday task 2 is due and the peer
Task
reviews
2
are
for
due
peer
by
review,
Tuesday?
yes. And then the peer reviews will be due on the following Tuesday.
Okay.
Always. That's the way it will work.
Okay, and the videos, those are going to be, you said they're going to be artifacts, but do we include any links to the videos in our writing or no?
No, you don't have to do that.
Okay, just refer to it that it happened or?
Yeah, well, yeah, and you will include that in there. You will include the video link in there.
Okay.
Okay, hold just a minute. Mine's playing games. Let me see. Somebody just asked a question. Who was that that just asked about the Zoom teams?
I did, Michael.
Okay, Michael, hold just a moment. I'm going to show you where to go. Give me just a second. We'll come back to those that have questions. We're going to take whatever time we need tonight. Okay, in Blackboard, Michael, go to Blackboard, and do you see right in Blackboard, you see Zoom Teams. You click on that, and these are my Zoom teams. Dr. Revis is the same thing, and it will click there, and it'll show you what team that you're working with.
My name is not listed. That's why I go there, but I don't see my name. That's why I asked.
Okay, Michael, what's your last name, Michael?
Jones.
Michael Jones.
Yeah,
Dr.
that's my
Revis,
fault.
Dr. Revis will fix that for you, Michael.
I will
Okay.
fix that. I'm sorry, Michael. You came in a little late. It was probably after I made those teams, and I apologize.
And if there's anybody else, let Dr. Revis and me know if you're in our classes that we've missed. And then when Dr. Revis will let the team that Michael is assigned to know who they are, and team, please reach out to Michael and bring him into the fold, okay? Okay. What, so who else has their hands raised? Andy, you still have a question?
Sandy, I have a question. With the task 2, if we're following the format, we're actually adding that the way it looks, like we did our school profile, our PLC research, then it's task 2 goes underneath it. So we're connecting it all, or is it a separate page?
You're saving it as a separate Word document each time. And then after you do task 5, we will tell you to go back and put all 5 together. And then at the end, you will combine your references, cumulative, and you will combine your appendices cumulative at the very end. Okay?
Okay.
And Alicia.
Yes, Dr. Revis.
Yes.
I know you said, so I was telling you that my task 1 has not been graded. So do you think you'll have that ready for me as soon as possible so I can go?
I'll try to get it tonight after we get off from class. It's my fault. I zoomed right through it and then I said, oh my goodness, and I couldn't remember who it was. So I'm sorry. It's
Oh my
fault.
God. I hope that, oh my goodness, doesn't mean it was that bad. No.
No, I clicked on it, and then once you click on it and go on, I can't get it back. So, but thank you for letting me know, and I'll go in and look at it. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Sandra.
I almost forgot my question there. What was my question? Oh gosh, it had something to do with the turning the document in. Let me think, because I can't even, it just slipped me. Let me think. I'll come back.
Okay.
I actually have a question about that, because on that helpful hints at the bottom on the note, it says when submitting the work, make sure you submit task 1 and 2 at the same time. So but we don't put those on the same template.
When it should not be task, it's prompt 1 and prompt 2. Thank you for that. And Dr.
Okay.
Revis, we said we were going to remember to fix that, and we forgot to fix that. That's an error in there, but thank you for saying that. And that should be prompt 1 and prompt 2 for task 2.
And thank you, Sarah, because you just helped me remember. So the challenge that I was having was when I started putting the paper together, and I remember you guys saying, take off the red, leave the black, and insert your writing.
Right.
And then it ended up being a separate document. And then I went back and put it back in that document. So is it okay for it to be a separate document, or should we put it in the place in between the writing that exists in the template?
Yes, you have to use the template, and you keep all of the black writing there. And you take out the yellow and put whatever you need to write in there, and you take out the red after you have used whatever you want to use from the red. But you follow the template, and it must be in that format.
So the writing there is kind of like an overview for us to think as we're writing.
Right, and you keep it. If it's in black, you keep it. You keep everything that's in black.
Okay. And so then later on, when we get finished with the final paper, we'll take all that stuff out.
No, you're going to always keep the black.
It's going to stay. Okay.
All the black stays in there. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I got a little carried away with that.
That's okay. That's okay, Sandra. And Alicia, you have another question?
No, sorry.
Okay, that's okay. Okay. Now, while we've got you here, Dr. Revis, I've got a change of heart unless you have. I think we just need to ask them, okay, you got our feedback on task 1. And, you got our grades on task 1. And I know some of you had heartburn when you got it, but that can change. It will change when you submit it back to us. And if you've made the corrections that need to be made, it can be 100 very easily with you making the necessary changes. Does everybody after tonight, do you have a better understanding of or after we've reviewed, do you have a better understanding of what you are to do to fix task 1? And from this point on, do you have a better understanding of what's expected of you each week? We want to make sure of that. You've got, Dr. Revis, I told them again, you had signed out. I told them that they've got to learn that APA. I told them that it was like, for some, it was like that we had never even mentioned it. And that can't be. You've got to learn that basic APA and you've got to follow it. So just, you've just got to do it.
May I share my screen right quick from one?
Yeah, absolutely. We're here until we need to
Okay.
leave. Okay.
I want to share and show you, speaking of APA, and I'm certainly not an APA expert by any stretch of the imagination. But guys, there's two things you got to do. You got to know how to do your in-text citations, and you got to know how to do a reference section. So if you will look, I'm on the home page. If you will look down here, you see where this says APA format materials? Click on it. First link, Dover Library link. Excuse me. And when you go there, this homepage right here should have everything you need. But you've got to look through it. It talks about to cite all these different things. It talks about all the in-text sites that you would have. I mean, it's full of everything that you need to learn, but you have to learn it. I just wanted to make sure it's there, because if you ordered a manual, it's probably not here yet. And I'm not even sure you need to order one. Most instructors require you to have one. I don't require you to have one, but you got to know how to do it. So if that's what it takes, do it.
And Alicia said she ordered one from Amazon, and it was anything you get from Amazon is going to be cheaper than the bookstore. I would tell you not to get it from the bookstore if you can help it. So, but I just, again, I know that we were pretty brutal on some of our grading this weekend, but we had to be. I mean, we had to I couldn't sugarcoat anything. You wouldn't want us to sugarcoat anything. We were very, very candid with you with it, but we're giving you an opportunity to fix it and to and then when you send it back to us, if you fix it, then the problem's solved. Now, I do not want your task 2 to have a repeat of some of the stuff that we had to correct in task 1. That should not be the case, Dr. Revis. Lessons learned and we move on. Okay? So how's everybody feeling right now?
I'm feeling better.
Good. Good.
But I got one more question.
Okay, just a second. Remember, we told you that give us 2 or 3 weeks, 3 weeks probably. And I promise you, if you'll hang in there, you'll look back and you'll say, wow, look how much I have grown in such a short period of time. It happens. I promise you it happens. And it's already starting to happen. Even tonight, Dr. Revis, is different than, I just feel a difference already with how confident that you're beginning to feel. Okay, we're on your side. It may not look like it, but we truly are on your side 100% of the way. Okay, and who was that said they had another question?
Yes, okay. I'm getting to the this is going back to task 1 because I have to revise.
Okay.
What section? The PLC meeting is where we put the list of people who are on our team?
No, that's your PLC selection is where
selection.
And then the committee is the meeting is where you actually meet with them.
With the hours. Okay, so they go in separate places.
Yeah, those are different headings, Tori.
Exactly. I just want to make sure I got it right. I want to make sure.
Okay, Jennifer.
Hey, good evening. It's not really a question, but it kind of goes along with what Dr. Rivas was just sharing about the APA. When you go to the library for the Dover Library, if you go into one of the texts and you click on the book or whatever, it actually gives you the citing there. It shows you exactly how to do it. All you have to do is change from it'll have like MLA, but you just change it to APA 7 and it'll give you the exact thing. So that is a helpful hint.
Thank you, Jennifer, for sharing that. Thank you. And guys, when you're meeting with your Zoom teams, you know, these are things like Jennifer just shared that. Those are things that when Jennifer meets with her team, she may share some of those things with her team and others may have other tidbits of things. You can come together as a team and talk about some stuff to help each other without us knowing it. You don't have to ask our permission to do that. You know, that's what you're there to work with each other and to help each other if that's what you need to do.
And if I could add on to what is said, guys, I would just say this. Yes, you can use that, and I encourage you to. It is not 100% foolproof. So, you know, just recheck it. Don't depend on that solely, but it'll get you close.
Right. Okay. Other questions? Does everybody, do you know what you need to do to be able to fix task 1 now and to move on to task 2? Is everybody good? Dr. Revis, I think they are. Okay, Alicia said no.
Guys, I know there's a lot facing you right now, but I promise you it's going to slow down. It will start slowing down. You start getting very accustomed to the routine and the rhythm of what's due when, and just give it a few more weeks, and I promise you'll get through this.
Yeah, you'll figure your own pace out with it. And Alicia?
Yeah, so my nerves is shot because we have PLCs usually on Tuesday. So it's like now my only time to meet is Friday because we have a meeting with somebody coming in on Thursday, and then tomorrow I have to meet with Ramsey for my during my PLC time to discuss with the principal. So I'm like, I really have Friday to do the PLC, then I have Saturday, and then it's due Sunday. So my nerves are shot because I'm like, I have a little bit of time because of the scheduling, but I couldn't move on until we had this meeting today. So I'm like,
but but the more you understand it, and Alicia, the more you'll be able to begin thinking ahead, and there's things that you can work on ahead of your team before you meet with the team. So you don't always have to wait. You meet with your team, but you go to your team prepared with work ahead of time.
Got you.
A lot of times. So that doesn't hold you back. There's going to be times that you present things to your team, and then you add to it if they have suggestions in addition to that.
Okay.
Okay, does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, but you can't, you're going to have to work independently on things, but then you take what you work independently on and present to your team and get their input into it as well. A good leader always goes into a meeting better prepared than the team is. Okay. You're going to be all right. I promise you. You'll hear me say, I promise over the next 2 or 3 weeks a lot, but I do promise you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go pick my daughter up. I got to pick her up.
Okay. Okay.
But I am on my way, and I'm going to turn this thing in Thursday, and I think that I got the swing of it. So.
You got it, Christina. You're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. Okay, guys, we will see you on Thursday night, and Dr. Lamb's got it, so be prepared. Dr. Lamb, he's going to be wide open on Thursday night. When Dr. Lamb's in charge, he is in his glory. I can promise you that.
Why are you talking bad about me?
I know it. I knew you were there. That's why I said it.
Yeah,
Dr. Lamb's in his glory when he's in charge.
But let me just say this. We typically go back over things again, so don't get all torn up.
That's right. That's right. Okay, guys, if you will sign out, Dr. Lamb and Dr. Revis and I need to meet for just a minute. Okay, we're all good now. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Can I, Dr. Revis,
I'm sorry,
can I
have
ask a
questions
quick
too.
question before I
can.
leave? But because of the cadence of when I'm meeting with this team, because I'm not working at the school where I'm doing my internship, can I email you, Dr. Evans, if I've got questions about task 3, because I'll have to do that work before class next Tuesday. Okay.
Yes, and Kim's always start out by looking at the helpful hints document.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
But
Thank
sure,
you.
they'll be fine.
Dr. Evans, can I ask just real quick? I didn't want to ask in front of like thousands of people, but
Okay,
I just want to
sure.
make sure I'm looking at, I'm looking at all the information. I'm looking at the PowerPoint of the overview of the AAPSL Task 1, because I just want to make sure if I need to take that out. I think that's what you put in my review, talking about the PLC research. The last bullet says conclude the research section with a complete description of your PLC design. I don't need to do that. I need to take that out.
I'm not sure, Kelly. Let me go back and look at your work and what I said to you. I'm sorry.
That's fine. I mean, no, that's fine, because I also got peer reviewed and was told to take it out too. And I think I'm the only one that added it, but I was just going by, I'm a very bullet type of person. I try to make sure I include everything.
I think you may have gone a little too far with the first one. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. And I'll take it out if I need to. I just want to make sure that I don't not put what I need to put in there.
But Kelly, don't
Okay.
get rid of it. Just take it and put it somewhere else. You probably need it somewhere else. So don't
I
get
can probably
rid of
just
what
move
you
it over
got.
to my PLC selection
Yeah.
section.
Yeah. Don't get rid of it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly.
And my question before I get off, do you guys still need to talk with me? Because I turned it in again after I redid it.
Okay, you're okay. You're okay, Sandra. You're gonna be okay unless you have a question.
Okay, no, I just wanted to make sure because I did turn it in again.
No, you're
But
good.
I'll go back and look at it again.
Okay, thanks, Sandra.
Thank you. Hi, Dr. Lamb.
Hello.
Thank you, guys. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
All right, mine is more not necessarily a question, I guess just more of a statement. So I wasn't fully sure that I was gonna want to do it and that I was gonna be able to kind of keep going with it, like being a single mom and everything. But I talked to Dr. DeBonaventura, who wanted me to tell, I don't know if it was you, Dr. Stedman or Dr. Lamb. Do either of you know DeBonaventura, Krista?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, all right. She wanted me to tell you.
And her
that.
husband, John.
Krista was
and her husband, John.
Yes, her husband, yes.
Krista
So-
was one of my doctoral students.
Yes, she told me because I went to her today, actually, because I think I sent you an email yesterday.
You
I was
did?
like, I'm ready to go. And so I went to her today and I said, hey, like, I don't think, and so she was like, you can do it. I'm here. So I'm going, I'm going to keep going. I've got your changes. I'm going to get it done. So I think I'm okay, but.
I'm glad to hear that, Anthony. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. Okay. Bye.
Good night, William. Mike, do you have a question?
Yes, I do have one quick question.
Okay.
For, y'all. I am a business teacher, and I'm looking at the academic side of things. I'm a former EC teacher, done that 15 years, but now I teach business. So, what would be the best approach looking at things from an academic standpoint? Because I work in the CTE department. I do have the instructional coach as one of the instructional coach as one of the team members, and the other members are part of my CTE team, and then I also have a guidance counselor as part of the team. It's looking at the holistic approach. So what's the best way to look at it, the academic side, to present it to them? I guess am I asking my question right?
Yeah. Do you have any data in CTE that you can look at. Are you in North Carolina or South Carolina?
North Carolina. I'm in Wake County.
Okay, well, you have CTE test data, right?
What that's the thing. I'm at a middle school, so we don't do state
Okay.
testing.
All right.
So see, and that's
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding. You don't have to have your own data. You got standardized testing in your school. Go to your
Yes, sir.
state report card and pull your standardized. If you're in a middle school, you've got EOGs for grades 6, 7, and 8. You got a lot of other data. It doesn't have to be in your area. And it's
Okay,
best
great.
if it's not
Okay.
in your area.
Okay,
That's
great.
what I was going to say, Dr. Lamb. Mike, it's best that you, as a future administrator, you need to begin looking in areas out of your comfort zone.
That is correct.
Okay.
That is
Now I will say this
absolutely correct.
based off what I hear the other kids, our science scores are terrible. 8th grade.
Well, I mean, I can tell you in 2 minutes because I can look up your state report card.
Okay.
I mean, that's pretty simple, but
Okay.
you need to be seen as somebody other than a CTE teacher, or you'll never get a job. You better look at gen ed. You better be digging down in that gen ed side and
Well,
know what's
I taught
going on.
gen ed
You don't need
15 years.
CTE data. You need gen ed data.
Okay, I got you. All right, thanks for clearing it up for me. Y'all
Okay,
have a
you're
great
Alrighty.
night.
You're welcome, Mike. We'll
All right.
see you on Thursday.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Good
Bye-bye.
night.
Dr. Lamb, now if I pause recording, it's not going to mess anything up now, is
No,
it?
no,
Okay.
it won't.
Okay.